Welcome to the video solution for worksheet number 2, which deals with chapter 2. So we're evaluating some variable expressions, and we have to plug in or substitute certain numerical values into the expression where the variable is, but it's important to understand what's happening. So the 2c are within parentheses, so this is not the same thing as 18 divided by 2c. Because remember, PEMDAS or GEMDAS would require you to do multiplication division from left to right. So in this case, we would do 18 divided by 2 and then times c. But in this case, we're doing 18 divided by 2 times c, and the 2 times c occurs with the g. So that would happen first. So we're going to rewrite this. And I'm going to leave these parentheses for where there was a c. Now I'm going to substitute the negative 2 in for where there was the c. Then I get 18 divided by, what's 2 times negative 2? Negative 4. And this can be written, remember, as this. And this can be simplified by dividing both the top and the bottom by 2. So that leaves us with 9 halves, and it's negative 9 halves. And I discussed in a video lecture how it doesn't matter where the negative sign goes so long as there's the 1. Now some of you might be trying to do this in decimal format. Just leave it as fractions. It's fine. If we did it this way, it'd be 18 divided by 2 times negative 2, which would be 18 divided by 2 is 9, times negative 2. All of a sudden, that becomes negative 18, and that's very different than negative 9 halves. So you want to make sure that you're following GEMDAS and doing the parentheses first. So now we're going to evaluate this expression, just like we did above. It's a little bit more complicated, just a little bit. So I've got a parentheses for my c, I've got a parentheses for my a. The entire thing is squared. Notice this square is not just applied to the a, it's applied to everything inside. So my a was negative 3, my c was 5. So it's, oh, and I have to actually, thank you, I have to put parentheses for this a over here, and my a was negative 3. So this isn't 2 minus 3, it's 2 times parentheses, negative 3, which is negative 6, minus 5 plus negative 3 is 2, and that is squared. And that gets us to negative 6 minus 4, and that equals negative 10. Don't try to square each of those. You don't distribute the square like you would distribute a constant on the outside. You follow GEMDAS again, and we added the inside of the GEMDAS, of the grouping symbols, first. And then we went to the squaring part. So we did the G first, and then we did the E. The next one is longer and more complicated, so you have to be careful about what you're doing. So we're going to go negative 2/3, parentheses, minus 1/4, parentheses, 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 parentheses. And if it helps, you can write the variables at the top. So now everywhere there's a D, we're going to put 6. Everywhere there's a B, we're going to put 5. The A is negative 2, and the C is negative 1. So we're going to actually start simplifying as we go through this. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 6 twice, so it's negative 2 times 2, which is negative 4. Minus 1/4 times a bunch of something. 5 times 6 is 30, minus negative 2 times negative 1 is 2. So a lot of you might try to just start playing with all the negative signs here, but just be careful. Do it one step at a time, bring down the subtraction symbol, and then simplify these two terms together first. So it's negative 4 times minus 1/4 times 28. Now we can start simplifying. 4 divides 4 once, 4 divides 28 7 times. So we get negative 4 minus, what's the 1 times 7? 7. That's negative 11. Okay, now the value of p is the value of this when x is negative 2. Then find the value of 2p minus 3. So first we have to substitute negative 2 and find p. So pretend this says something like p equals 3x cubed minus 4x minus 2. But now we have to substitute the negative 2 in everywhere we see an x. And remember, we're doing parentheses because the cube has to apply to everything. So we're going to do the cube, which is negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, which is negative 8. And then we're going to minus 4 times negative 2, which is negative 8, minus 2. And then p is negative 24 plus 8. We're adding the opposite of negative 8, so it's a positive 8. And then minus 2. And I'm just going to be more comfortable if I erase that and rewrite it. And now we're going to negative 24 plus 8 is negative 16, minus 2, so p is negative 18. And now we're going to find this, 2 times p minus 3, and p was negative 18 maybe. Now 2 times negative 18 is negative 36, minus 3, that's negative 39, and that sounds familiar. So if you only went this far, it doesn't say find p, it says to find the value of 2p minus 3, so you're not going to get full credit if all you did was this. So this one, let's just get rid of the negative signs to begin with. You could pretend that this is this, because it's negative 1/2 times negative 2x, so you can put parentheses around there if you'd like, and then a negative times a negative makes a positive. 1/2 times 2 makes 1, and so what's left is just x. If you need to have the 1x for now, that's fine, but eventually you have to become comfortable with just writing x. So this requires an LCM of the denominators, so the LCM of 5, 10, and 15 is 30. So we're going to take negative 2/5 m times something to give us a 30. So 5 times what gets us 36 minus negative 3/10 m times what would give us 30 multiplied by 3. So whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top, times, oh, let me put the m there, and then this is 2 over 2. So now we have negative 12m over 30. Then we have a negative, or a subtraction, and a negative, which makes it addition. We have 9 over 30m. And then we have a negative 52m over 30. Okay? And now we have to start adding negative 12m plus 9m is negative 3m. Negative 3m minus 52m is negative 55 over 30m. But this isn't simplified because both of these have a factor of 5 at least. Let's do the 5 first and see where it goes. Negative 55 divided by 5 is negative 11. 30 divided by 5 is 6. And 11 and 6 do not share any common factors. And so now this is simplified. Here's some decimal multiplication. So we need to do 0.75 times the old-fashioned way. 8. It's 40. And that's 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. How many decimal places? 0.75 has 2. So it's 3.2, but it's negative. But I'm missing something, I feel like. Oh, I did do something wrong. This is 56. That's 60. That's what I did wrong. I knew the answer felt weird. So 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 7 is 56, and that's 60. And there's 2 decimal places. So it's negative 6x. And that's okay if you make a mistake, so long as you can figure it out eventually. You don't need to include the 6.00 because any zeros after the decimal point don't change anything. So here, again, we're going to start with the very most inner grouping symbols, which is that. But can anything happen to that? Well, let's take a look. This subtraction means I'm going to add the opposite of each of these terms. The opposite of x is negative x. The opposite of positive 7 is negative 7. So that's about all I can do there. But now I can combine like terms. 2x plus a negative x is just x. And I'm going to turn this adding of a negative 7 into a minus 7 to make it simpler for us. Now we're going to distribute the negative 3. And we get that negative 3x plus 21. So we've got the minus x. We've got the minus 7. That's a 21. Yeah, I feel good about that. And if any point in time during any of these videos you find an error of mine, please let me know. So we're going to simplify this, and this requires that we start distributing. So it's 2a plus 4b. We're going to add the opposite first. Add the opposite of positive a is negative a. We're going to add the opposite of negative 3, which is positive 3b. So now we're going to combine the a is 2a plus a negative a is a. 4b plus 3b is 7b. Now we have to translate. And this is very important in a mathematics class to be able to translate words into an expression or an equation. So the difference between 2 times n and 7. So the difference between what and what. So these are our two things, and there's a different sign. Difference, you go left to right. It's not comparable to the less than, where then the first thing would actually go second. This is different, so we just go left to right. 2 times n. So 2n you can do, or you can do 2 parentheses n, but simplified is just 2n and 7. 3 divided by, okay, so 3 is being divided by stuff. So it's 3 divided by stuff. What is it divided by? The sum of, the sum of two numbers, the sum of something and something. So the sum of a number and 8, the sum of a number and 8. Okay. The quotient of, so it's the same thing as divided by, except this says 3 divided by something, and this will say the quotient of something and something. So the quotient of something and something, what are those two somethings? So the quotient, this, 6 less than n, remember with less than, the 6 goes on the other side, and twice n. Now here's where I want you to be careful of the divided by and the quotient of. You might say n minus 6 divided by 2n, but remember when you do this, you're doing GEMDAS, and since you failed to put parentheses around this first term, the first operation I'm going to do is the 6 and the divided by 2n, and that's not what you want. You wanted the n minus 6 to go together because it went together right here. So in order for this to be correct, you need to do this, so that I do this operation first before I do the division operation. But it's easier if you just write it in fractional form, then it's clear to everybody what's supposed to happen first. So the quotient of what? 15 and something. That something's a little bit complicated. So the quotient fraction bar of 15, the first thing goes on top, and something. The sum of, sum of something and something, the sum of a number and 12. The sum of a number n and 12. The sum, and the plus sign, n and 12. Okay? So you're going to have to practice these. You can rewatch the videos however many times you need to. The video lecture contains more examples. So the quotient of what? 5 more than twice a number, and we're looking for the word and. Now, this goes in one, and this goes in the other. This is first, and this is second. We've already talked about that. So 5 more than twice a number. Remember, less than goes on the right, and so does the more than. And twice a number is 2n. We've worked that out before. And the number is n. So now in all of these, we could have and should have been defining our variable. So let n be the number, let n be the number, etc. And for full credit on exams, and maybe even extra credit, depending on how I'm in the mood for that day, you want to be as complete in your solutions as possible. So writing let n be the number and then proceeding through the problem shows me that you're fully aware of everything that's required. The difference between what? The difference between something and something. The difference between 40 and a bunch of other stuff. Remember, difference reads left to right. So this, the 40 is going to be the first term, and then there's this difference, and then there's stuff. What's the stuff of? The quotient of what and what? A number and 20. The quotient of let, how about B be the number? And the pound sign for me means number. So now we're going to see the quotient of a number b and 20. And we can simplify this a little bit, or at least bring it closer together. There we go. So the difference between 40 and the quotient of b and 20. So you should be able to cover up the words and turn your answer into a verbal expression, into a sentence, and then see if you can match that sentence back with the problem that I actually asked you to do. If you can, then maybe you're doing okay. If you can't, then maybe you're not doing so okay. So that's the end of the worksheet 2 video solution. Notice that some of these already had the n. This first one already said 2 times n. Number 12 had twice n and then the n. Number 3 said a number, so let n be a number as well for number 11. Okay, so whenever it doesn't tell you n or x or a, you should be writing this as your first sentence. That would make it a nice, pretty, complete solution when you start with that. So now that is the end of the worksheet 2 video solution. We'll see you in the next video.